Hey, everybody. It's so great to seeing faces of people that we do business with. Mickey, it's only been, what, 25, 30 years doing this. So good thing we started when we were 6, right? You know, and man, this is great. Look, like, seriously, it's making my day seeing faces, especially all of you, the wonderful people. And I will say this, and I hope you believe this, it comes from the heart. The work you all do is ridiculously valuable and probably one of the most underappreciated components in the Parks and Recreation space. This is my 36th year doing this. Look, man, I'm getting chills thinking about this. Just thank you for being here. I'm excited because I deal with a lot of you currently through the National Academy of Athletics, not to give you a commercial because it seems like you all know us, but we're in over 125 cities, 4 states, and we're running programs. And what I'm finding is that everybody that I talk to more and more, your job is getting tougher and tougher. And so what I want to do today is I want to kind of go through the experiment and kind of go through the details of insource versus outsource and what we do, because right now the number one challenge when I used to talk to recreation people was, oh, parents are a pain in the butt. It's always the parents, right? But we know they're still a pain in the butt, don't get me wrong, some of them. But there's also this other thing, which is staffing, right? Which is the big elephant in the room, which we're all dealing with. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kind of shed some light on some things. I've had conversations with most of you and a lot of other rec coordinators that couldn't be on. Some are going to join on later from all over. Because what I want to do is I want to kind of give you a snapshot of what's going on so you guys can see it and how it kind of works together there. So I appreciate you jumping on and joining in. If you know me, you know I'm going to kind of interact. I'm going to ask you questions. You know, Michael, what's up? Tell me what's going on over there, and et cetera. So if you don't want questions, you know, just give it like this or whatever you got to do, and we'll pass the next person. No hard feelings, right? Fair enough. Cool. All right. So let's jump in. So what I'm going to do is I put together a PowerPoint. Anybody give me a thumbs up so I know that I'm not just showing you air. Perfect. Thank you. You can hear me. Yay. All right. So insourcing versus outsourcing. Now, it's funny because there was this conversation not too long ago where it's like, how are we going to do this, right? And we have to be able to control things. So what I'm going to do is I'll break it down piece by piece. And if any of you feel like, hey, wait a second, I want to add, or don't forget, please, let's do this, because this is hopefully going to be more of a conversation rather than a monologue, what dialogue is and two. So let's go to the next slide here. And I guess if you're looking for this, then you know you're in the right place, because if you're looking for something different, you're not going to find it. All right, so Parks and Rec professionals, I truly believe, and this is the God's honest truth, I tell you, you guys have an extremely tough job. What I'm hearing now, and I want to hear if anybody else has any additional, because I do have these conversations. Number one is balancing your budget. I'm also hearing that it's not just balancing it, but now they've been cut significantly. So because there's less revenue come in, what do you do? Casual staff, you're still limited to your hours, correct? Recruiting, training, retaining quality staff, which might have been one of the top ones, but you know, go from there. Increasing program community partnerships, because what I'm hearing from some of the supervisors, some of the city councils that I go in and I read what's going on, and I kind of see what the mayors seem to think they want. Wouldn't it be nice if they asked you guys what is actually feasible to be done, rather than just saying, you know, we want this? So part of that, of course, keeping the programs affordable as possible. Looking at the reimagining services, like what can you create and how can you create it? And we all know that mostly everything that's been done, we've either stolen from somebody else from CPRS or they've been done before. So it's a matter of how can we shape it so that something done in Stockton or San Diego or Santa Rosa or Rockland can all be done. And yet it's got to change based on the needs of the community. And then, oh, by the way, there's still this COVID thing that's been hanging around way too long. And I apologize for my cough drops, but I'm going to keep those going. I'm still on the tail end of this thing. And then, of course, maximizing any facilities you have, because that's obviously an important piece. So let's start with, hey, Jeannie, real quick. Is there anything, by the way, thank you so much for your help in the last year or so. You've been tremendous, so I appreciate it. But is there anything that I'm missing? Anything you see on this list that you think we need to add, or does that seem like what you guys are balancing? Pretty good. Okay, we're good. All right, let's move to the next slide. Yeah. So The evolution of Parks and Rec management. I don't know if you guys, anybody recognize this? Like I say, like I got to give you a gold star. Who is this?
Sandlot.
Sandlot. There you go. I should have put a picture of me as a kid because I was a Sandlot kid. But nonetheless, the evolution of Parks and Recreation management over the last 40 years, or the 36 years since I've been involved, what's going on is kids used to be able to play more on their own. They used to go down the street and play, and then parks were a part of the organized program to kind of make things happen. And now, unfortunately, you guys are being put in a place where you have to take the lead. Kids nowadays don't even know how to play together. In fact, they're hiring my company to go in during the school day, during recesses and lunch, and teach the kids how to play Foursquare, right? And if you remember, and I, again, I'll soapbox for a second, but we used to start games by doing this, right? Or solving problems. And the kids don't know how to play together. So part of what you're doing through the recreation departments, in my opinion, is really vital because you're teaching the social and emotional stuff as well as the sports specific stuff. And I really think that the more people can realize the value of what you guys do, the more value will be seen upon it. And hopefully that translates into your budgets, because I think that's a big important piece of that. Joint use agreements with schools. Back in the day, in the 80s, and even into the 90s, the cities dumped a whole bunch of money into the schools. So the joint use agreements were a good solid 25-year deal where back in the day, you all had access to the schools, right? And there was a great partnership. Well, those joint use agreements are drying up and now they're going, what have you done for me lately? So, oh, in Santa Rosa, you want to use the middle school? Yeah, no, you can't. And we're going to charge you a fortune if you can. And you get 1 hour on Wednesdays from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. But we got to charge you a triple time janitor fee if you're going to do that, right? Instead of, hey, we're all servicing the same kids, so how about we work together? What I have heard, there's a little bit of a swing with that coming back around, and I hope that's the case because I do think that that school joint use agreement is really, really vital. The Mark West School District in Sonoma County is one of the best at realizing, one of the leagues we run, they have realized the value of having their kids off the street and playing sports and doing activities. We're seeing a huge need and increase in community needs, right? And now, not just in youth sports, but also in seniors programming, specialty programming, and other things. So it's really, it's a huge challenge to find the balance point of that and what you're going to be able to do. Next is going to be diversity community needs, reduce subsidized funding, right? Because if you guys don't have the tax base, then you don't have the funding. So then how do you run your program, right? Budgetary constraints, staff salaries, PERS, all the different factors going on, hiring, recruiting, all those factors. Privatization of youth sports. Anybody notice that kids that maybe aren't even that great at a sport are all of a sudden playing travel ball? I grew up in Marin County and I was a pretty good basketball player. Not a great basketball, but I couldn't even make the travel team. The Marin County travel team until my senior year was the first year that I could qualify to play the AAU. And now you're a third grader, you got a pulse and your parents willing to write a check, you're on the team, right? And we're going to travel all over the place. So that factor is really breaking down the fabric. And one of the reasons why I think National Academy of Athletics has done so well is because we're doing our best to help you guys to bring recreation back to the communities and help all those masses of kids that are going to be not allowed to play because of financial reasons or because they're being told to specialize. We all know it's a bunch of crap if you think about it, because Michael, I know your son, we're going to get him doing double days, 6 days a week. He doesn't play any sports, just baseball. And don't worry about it. He'll get a nutrition program. I know he's only 6, but don't worry about it. He'll get a college scholarship. We got this covered. It's only $1,200 a month. Are you in? It's, we know it's not the truth, but yet somebody's selling it. It's out there and there's a lot of programs. So one of the things that you guys are battling is how do you provide a program that competes with that? And part of it is the narrative. I'm going to be honest, and I think we can help change that as we go forward. And then, of course, the old pandemic, which is another thing to navigate. And what I'm seeing more and more for you guys is you're being called upon to do more and more and more. You know, it was one thing in Napa when we had the earthquake and we had to get water, we had to do certain things. It's a short period of time. This is 2 years, for God's sake. Right? For 2 years. And by the way, we're all on the same rowboat. And I feel like most rec people, we're all rowing the same direction. But everybody else around us, they're rowing left and right and back and forth and going, how come we're not getting anywhere? It's insane. So I commend you for what you're doing. I believe that this is kind of the evolution of what's been going on. And I do think that things are changing, and I think we have to be able to change with them. Anybody thinking, Greg, what do you think? Did I hit it pretty good? Anything else you can think of that maybe we need to add to the list? Good. All right, moving on. So when you look at your determining factors, as a business person, the last job I had when I got a paycheck from somebody else was the Golden State Warriors in 1989, when I used to run their programs for them. So it's been a while. But as a business owner, I have to look at things from a standpoint of the financial goals of the program, right? It's not always the first thing, but let's be honest. If my financial goals aren't met, I'm out of business. I can't do all these other things. I would assume for you guys, while the financial goals are at a certain point, if Anthony, if you set up a program and it doesn't run, they don't take money out of your paycheck, right? They don't. But on the other hand, it may affect your budget, which means that you have less staff. So we have to really get clear on the financial goals of what we're doing. The other determining factors of any program you run are going to be your current staff capacity, right? I got an email. Yes, I will. I'll email this PDF to you guys. By the way, I just got an email request for that. So I will send it to you guys. So you're more than welcome to share it with other staff or go through it. So thank you for asking for that. And again, I don't know about you, but finding recruiting and the staff has been a little bit of a challenge lately, right? We've been blessed. We found a couple of ways, which I'll share with you from the National Academy of Athletics, which is helping. But your program staff, in terms of those folks, facility available, like I talked about. How many of you have your own beautiful gym that you get to do everything you want versus you're trying to work with and your strategic partnerships with everybody? And I don't know about you, but during the pandemic, I've seen the school districts, they are just tightening everything up. They don't want you on campus. We don't want it. And, you kind of can't blame them. On the other hand, there has to be that fine line to go forward from there and how it's going to fit together. Equipment and supplies. I ordered in the back behind me, you can see the logo sports balls. So I've ordered, because we get new basketballs, volleyball, soccer balls every twice a year. So I ordered those a little over a year and a half ago. And what I was just notified yesterday was they're sitting off of Long Beach in there, and we're just waiting for them to somehow get loaded Long Beach and get up here. They were supposed to be here October 4th. So I got to assume that equipment and supplies can be challenging for you guys as well. I wonder if you guys remember back when sanitizer was like gold and we all needed it. So we were driving to, like I drove up to Healdsburg and bought, gallons of hand sanitizer for like, $800, right? Because it was that expensive. I don't know if you guys went through that, but not so we have to do that. Advertising, marketing, and promotion. How much of a budget do you have? How are we doing? Are we doing guides that are being mailed out anymore? I would say most are not, right? We're going to the electronic guides. Okay, from a marketing standpoint, I'm talking to a lot of cities that aren't even allowing you guys to use social media for marketing, which I'm thinking like, well, wait a second, particularly for the youth space, 81% of your target audience, mom, right, with a child between 4 and 13, they're on social media, averages 6 times a day. So it would seem to me that's where we need to be. And if the city won't allow you to do that, that can be really challenging in terms of how you go out doing that. Registration software. I'm just curious real quick if we can get a pulse. Michael, what service do you guys use over at GVRD for registration?
We use Sportsman.
Sportsman?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Steve, what do you guys use for registration software?
We just switched over to ActiveNet.
ActiveNet. Okay. All right. Rachel?
We're using Civic Rec in Petaluma.
Civic. Okay. Chris, as if I don't know all these things, but anyway, yeah, Chris.
Rockland uses ActiveNet as well.
Active. Okay. Anybody got a Perfect Mind? What other ones do we have out there? Yeah, Perfect Mind. Mickey. Okay. So, those services aren't necessarily free, right? Each of those, and some of them you have to jump through hoops, and then like one of the ones that we deal with, they have to actually we get charged to give refunds back. So wait a second. So you're charging us on the front end, you're charging on the back end, and there's a lot of moving parts. Coordinator is using RecPro. Perfect, exactly. So one of those things that I would highly recommend for Anthony and your group would be, how great would it be for one day to have somebody take the lead, if you want me, anybody, take the lead and explain the pros and cons of each of those services and the cost associated with them. Because I do believe as a contractor, they're not always easy to work with, particularly when you're dealing with things like just getting a basic report, right? Or how those things work. So that can be important to go forward from there. Program curriculum. Who's designing the programs you guys are running? Is this something that you've run before? You know, Rachel, you've run the same program for years and years and years. It's great. And sometimes that comes with the staff. But the other challenge happens sometimes is that, like when we talk about expertise, continuity, and sustainability, it's great when you got someone at Sonoma State who's a sophomore and a junior that's going to come run a program for you, and they're a track person. But if they graduate Sonoma State and they'll go get a quote unquote real job, then what do we do? So sometimes we have to figure out, for sustainability, how do we create an ongoing program with that? So anybody else got a factor or something that might be you guys are dealing with, that a quote unquote dilemma or thought process, or anything that you guys may see that you think may be adding to your mix, or does that seem pretty much on spot on?
Hi, Aaron, it's Mickey. Good to see you again.
You too.
One thing I wanted to add, and I really should have added this at the first slide with challenges, but it really rings true with everything that you're saying, is we in recreation no longer, and really it's been since before COVID, there's been so many changes with the wildfires and everything else over the years, that we do not have streamlined services and procedures any longer. So everything that we do, no matter how many years we're doing it, is almost new and recreated. And so the timing to get something that we've done over the years done again is it's increased. And not just that, but like you said, with the supplies and everything. So nothing is streamlined anymore. So it doesn't matter if we had little kickers going for the past 5 years. Every single year there's caveats and something different from the previous year. So that really holds us back there a little bit, but we get through it.
Right. It feels to me, again, like you guys are literally going through so many challenges, and it's nice to see rec people that have been around 5, 10, 15 years, because you've been through it enough that you kind of, hate to say it, but you've ridden the wave, you know what I mean? And the world's not going to end and we're going to be okay, right? But I feel, man, I was talking to Michael not too long ago from GDR, and I feel like they've tied his right arm behind his back, behind his left leg, and said, sprint. You know what I mean? It's like, woo, how do you do that, right? And like you said, Chris, we talked about it before last season, every 2 weeks, something changes. So we can agree, this is what you all are going to do. And then you're just about to do it. And then all of a sudden they go, yep, beep. And you're going, well, how, right? So I agree to that. Yeah, it's tough to hit a target that is continually moving, right?
Hey, Aaron, I want to add something.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, challenges I have here in Vallejo, I don't know if any city or special district or agency has this issue. I'm competing against all these different leagues and traveling teams, whether it's a flag football league, soccer leagues,
Right.
baseball, little league. It's like everyone's kind of doing their separate thing, and I have to compete against that. It's really difficult to really get my numbers up. I don't know if any agency or city runs into that issue.
I would think you all are on some level, right? One of the challenges there is if our goal in recreation is to provide the best quality, safe youth sports experience to those kids, right? And we've got to put it out there as best we can. And it's being served by an organization, you know, whether it's flag football or something, then maybe we have to go, okay, it's not that group. Maybe there's another subsection of it. I think it's really important, like the youth sports symposium we've talked about, to stay connected, to survey your community as best as possible, to know what their needs and what they're looking for. I was surprised, I'll be honest, in Santa Rosa last summer, our numbers were great. And it was we were just doing a straight rental situation, which I never do because we always partner. And it feels to me like, I don't know, I guess the best way I would say it is that being able to provide something when there's nothing, right? Because we got to the point where we were like at capacity every week, where I think that, to your point, Michael, is if you can find that sweet spot, and you know what, it may be 4 to 6 year olds. Maybe that's the niche right now to develop that as you go forward, right? You know, Rockland has one thing that I respect about Chris a lot. There's a lot of things besides that amazing truck you drive, but the fact that he's been able to morph with the situation. You know, to Mickey's point, we used to be running flag football with, you know, 300 kids. We had all this stuff going on. And then all of a sudden it kind of shifted. No fault to the program we ran, but the community was kind of saying, well, we want higher level. We want, you know, high competitive. And we're like, you know, we're not built for that. We're a recreation department. So I think part of it is to find the special components. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if you guys know, we added pickleball this summer. And we got a partnership with the Pickleball Association, and that's been going gangbusters. And so we're really excited about that. In fact, down in San Diego, it's going to be probably one of our biggest areas. But if you don't have pickleball, let us know. We'll jump on it. So good. Oh, perfect. Here's a list of software programs. Class, that's good. Thank you. That's great. Thanks, Matt. Yep, good stuff. Okay, back to the show. All right, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take time for a minute and go through a sample program. And I figured one that I really would be dear and near to my heart because I'm getting close to that age, right? Is what are y'all doing? Who have you run senior programs? Rachel, you must run something for seniors down there in your center, yeah?
We do, yeah. We have a senior center.
Can you tell me what are the financial goals for one of your programs?
For our senior programs, we don't have to cost recover. So what's nice about that is that we provide them they're almost pretty much free to all of our seniors. And I think that's how it is kind of across a lot of cities, is there's not that expectation to bring in revenue because it's just a service to the community.
Right. So just for, especially if some are new, when you talk about financial goals, there's 3 basic breakdowns that you would think in your mind in terms of how your agency may be looking at things, right? One of them is going to be cost recovery. In the business world, we call that break even, right? Or a loss leader. We run a program with 6 kids for you, and we know that really we make money starting at 8, but we'll run it at 6 because we're committed to run the program. We cover the staff, and it basically becomes a break even, right? Okay, but a cost recovery. So anybody, you guys understand cost recovery makes sense. Okay, the other one is a profit center, right? Which is basically you're running a program and then you're able to put money either back into, from what I hear, it doesn't go back into your fund, it goes back to general fund. So I don't even know how that all works. But again, I just, as a business owner, it baffles my mind sometimes, because wouldn't it be nice to actually be in charge of your own, situation? Wouldn't that be nice, of your own, how that works? And then of course, the other one is a subsidized, right? And the subsidized situation is basically where the city says, I guess to your point, Rachel, which is like, we may lose a little money on this, but we're going to subsidize it, right? So those are 3, when you start looking at the factors and the financial factors that you're going to be dealing with and going forward. So the next one is then going to be staffing, right? So let's look at these factors here. So Chris, you run senior programs, right, as well. Tell me, how do you staff your senior programs?
So for us, we work with the seniors themselves. And so we have a representative from each class that is like our contact person, and they work with us to run the program. So if it's our yoga and Pilates class, or our hula or Zumba or bridge groups, we meet at the beginning of each year and pick a person that's going to be our contact person. We give them a key to the building, that classroom that they're going to be in. Okay. And then they are responsible for getting things set up and all that good stuff. Now, our staff will set up and take down and clean the rooms and the buildings and get all that stuff handled for them. And then if it's a for pay program, we take all the registration and get the instructors their rosters and all that good stuff. But we kind of lean heavily on the groups themselves that have participate to kind of work with us to help get us any information we need if there's any issues going on.
So if you're doing that, when you look at your budget, do you include whatever the direct cost, but what about the cost for the staff to set up or break down? Does that all go in that line item budget, or how does that work for you?
Yep, absolutely. So it's staff time to set up and break down. It's my time for creating the classes in the ActiveNet system and managing the rosters, we have these built-in HR administration fees from the city for dealing with whatever money they need to make themselves run, since we're the only money maker for the city.
Right,
All that
right,
kind of
yeah.
good stuff. So yeah,
Got it. Makes sense. Okay. Ah, yeah. How about facilities? Dominguez, what's your situation for your senior programs with your guys' facilities?
So we do all of our seniors programs out of 2 facilities, our community center, where we hold all our exercise classes, and then we have our senior center, which is really run by the seniors themselves. We have a facility attendant that opens the building, and the seniors then run the bridge, they run the bingo, and game days. They run all that by themselves. So just the 2 main facilities, senior center and the community center.
Okay, makes sense. And with equipment and supplies, Dominguez, again, do you guys provide everything, or is there, I mean, there's obviously a budget for that, but you guys provide basically everything for that, right?
Yeah, we provide almost everything. And then also there's been donations over the years that have kept it afloat.
Got it. Makes sense. Hey, Kevin, when you run senior, I gotta imagine everybody's running senior programs. I know that's the growing one. So how do you market, promote, and advertise for the seniors? How does that work?
Yeah, I think for us in Petaluma, we work really closely with some of the organizations that are already also running senior programming. So especially Petaluma People Services Center, which is a pretty big presence in Sonoma County, and really working with them on getting, their programming classes out and just finding those special niches where to get, the word out to that specific population. So whether if that's online, whether it's also a lot of word of mouth, and just a lot of leaning on those kind of organizations to help us out.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So when you get to the registration, some of them are drop-in, some are registration for you guys going across the board. Curriculum, as you look at it, Devin, I don't know if you can jump on it and speak. I know that you guys have a lot of stuff over there, but do you guys specialize with your program curriculum? So, and then for the senior programs, or is that in going down to the continuity? I mean, is that something that you've got your you have a senior director, or is that somebody, because I've seen it where you've got a person that's running seniors and they're also running, waterworks or, whatever, because you guys are so understaffed. How's that working over there with you guys?
Yeah, we have a pretty small group of full-timers. So we have one person who oversees senior and adult programs, as well as like the trips and tours for that center.
Okay. Anybody got anything else they want to add in the senior world in terms of that? And again, the only reason I bring this up is just, I'm wondering if you look at some of the components, if there's a way that it makes any sense, and we'll look at it, whether it's financial, or if you had somebody and said, okay, this person is an expert, like you said. I think, Kevin, you said you guys partner with, whether it's a financial relationship or just a relationship where you're sharing resources, because sometimes it's not about the Benjamins, it's not about the money, right? It's about what can you offer them, what can they offer you, right? Absolutely. Okay. Well, let's go to another one here. Let's go to I'm curious. So, summer camps, right? Summer camps coming up. I would assume virtually everybody is running some version of a summer camp, right? And when I say that, it's not necessarily sports specific camps, but just, some sort of camp in general, right? Across the board. So in Santa Rosa, you guys, Mickey, you've been running, is it Camp Wantam, right? Or?
Yeah, we have 3 traditional summer camps, Watam, Doyle, and Uchi.
Okay.
Watam's been around about 60 years, very traditional, not a lot of changes with that. Doyle and Uchi are up and comers over the last 30 years, 20 or 30 years. And then we have numerous other camps through our neighborhood services for at-risk youth. We have camps which are considered summer camps, but they're kind of broken down smaller. They're not like the full day and no overnight, but we still call them camps, and they're run by other coordinators, like Jean's on here. I think she has some herself.
Okay. So let me ask then, does each program have its own financial goal or breakdown, or how does that work for you guys in-house? I mean, are you guys looking at that is it a profit center, or is it a cost recovery?
Yes, so each section has its own budget, and our camps are for profit. So we are looking at bringing in revenue. And unfortunately, the way the government works is any revenue that we bring in this year does not count as revenue until next year. That's pretty much how it works. So we can look at what we brought in this year and try to look at what we can do next year if we plan on bringing in that same amount again. but we don't get the money to spend again this year. If we went over, it doesn't work that way.
Well, that'd be wonderful 20 years ago when you could plan a year out,
Right.
right? Oh, man, that's tough. Yeah. Ooh.
So you try to grow your revenue so that you have that revenue for next year. You don't have it for, so.
Yeah.
So each
Yeah.
individual section, so our coordinator who runs our traditional camps has his own budget, what
Okay.
he's allocated to spend and what his revenue goals are going to be. And then that is across the board for each section that has some type of summer camp.
Wow. Yeah.
The only one that's different would be neighborhood services, because that's done with grant money, Measure O funds and so forth.
Right. Is anybody finding that there's an X amount of dollars and if you don't use it, then you lose it the next year? That's a tough way to do business, because you guys know your boots on the ground. This year I need to do this because I've got to buy this equipment or this or whatever I need to do. And then the other end of it may be different. You know what I mean? And again, trying to plan things out. It's funny though, because I remember one time there was a city in the East Bay. We didn't have our proposal in by October 1st for the following summer. And they said it was too late. And then during the pandemic, it was 6 weeks before summer and they're like, can you please run something? And I wanted to say, yeah, sorry, you're too late, October 1st. But anyways, nonetheless, we didn't, and we ran the program gratefully. But yeah, I mean, everything's changed, right?
And that's the nature of recreation. You have to say a year in advance what you're going to do next summer without knowing whether or not it's possible next summer.
Man, and you're reliant on the facilities, which is a big one. If you're blessed, you have an actual, facilities so that you can know, at least I have that, right? But then you also have the budgets of the upkeep and all that. It sure would be nice if the schools would work with you guys on a larger scale. I would imagine most of the rest of these are kind of the same. I'm curious on the marketing end of it. Is anybody still able to get any kind of flyers into schools or any kind of direct marketing? Because I know it sounds nuts, but like I know for National Cab Athletics, we print flyers, we'll do English, Spanish, we'll do all the hoops and jump through, and we'll do that and we'll go through all of those. We've been doing that, but I'm wondering, are you guys getting that? Because look, that's where the kids are, right? We know if it goes through the school, they're going to get there. Is anybody having that, or is it pretty much been shut down? No one has access to that anymore.
It got tough in San Rafael, but it seems like it's starting to lighten up again, especially if you go to the individual school rather than through the district. A few years ago, they were trying to gear us all through the district, and that was a lot of hoops, but it seems like a couple of the local schools are letting us in now.
One thing I found that's helped out, we've been doing building relationships with the PTAs, the PTOs, and the schools, and doing some fundraisers with them and whatnot. Again, this is the good news, with us, we can do some things that you can't. I just talked to somebody about a marketing program for them, and they said, oh, no, don't give us anything. So we're not allowed to do anything on social media. I'm like, wow, how can you do that, right? But they did say, if we create the flyer and print it, with all jump through the hoops, that we could actually have them and they could get it to the schools through, as long as we had the PTA. And then what we're doing is we're actually donating some equipment to the PTA so that to help the school out. So they get to play with our playground balls during the school day, and they get the flyers for the information on the programming. Again, it still baffles me as someone that's done this a little bit. I just can't see how it takes a village, and we all have to be a community, and yet I feel like we're just rowing in different directions. And I feel for you guys. It's got to be tougher and tougher as we go forward. All right, who's the numbers person? Which one of you is like the numbers person? Because I'm going to pick someone's brain here in a second. Anybody good with numbers? Because no, yeah, all right, that's what I was afraid of. And I'm going to run this next slide, and we're all going to go, okay. But this is based on 4 interviews that I did with folks. And let's take a look. So if you ran an in-house program, does anybody feel comfortable as we go through this? Let's just break it down real quick. All right, let me know. I could be off, but this is what 4 different agencies in the state of California told me. This is kind of what it looks like, right? So if you charge $100 for the program, gross revenue is $100. You got 20 participants, it's $2,000, right? Y'all tracking me so far? Michael, give me a thumbs up once in a while so I know. Okay, cool. All right. So expenses, from a marketing budget, you guys maybe say, okay, it's $100. That's all you can spend specific to that. That doesn't include what's on your web and all that, but specifically, let's say just $100 for whatever that is, whether it's flyer or a banner or whatever you're going to do. Equipment might cost $100. we base these on percentages, so you know that we kind of did, okay, 5% for each, this and that. T-shirts at $575 or whatever it is, $115. The insurance that's direct for those kids. The staff would be approximately $600 to cover the man hours, or person hours, sorry, people hours, bodies, staff, taxes, workman's comp, $113.40. So then we got the supervisor time for whoever's setting up the overviewing of the program. We got the coordinator time to make sure that things are being run. That's the person that's actually supervising the staff that's physically running it. Then you've got the time, the man hours, person hours of onboarding the staff. And then you got the support staff at the front desk that's taking the calls, that's doing anything else. Then you've got the PERS for those people. So you net about 152.60. And again, I said about net, but that's a breakdown. Does that ring true to anybody? I mean, like Rachel, does that kind of seem like where you're at? I don't know. I know based on the spreadsheets that I saw from different cities, but that's kind of, does that seem pretty real?
I'll say it's real for certain programs, but I think it's just different, for each different program, whether, it's sports or youth or adults, seniors, et cetera. But
Okay,
I think it's
right.
pretty accurate overall as an example.
Okay, there can be additional expense. Steve, for you, I mean, you may be running like an adult softball league and there's going to be additional expenses. There may be additional, you're offset. And my guess is that you start with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, right? Okay, what's the bottom line? If this is supposed to be a break-even proposition, how does that work, right? So what does that look like, or how does that go forward, right? So, okay. How about you, Kevin? Give me one more shout out just to make sure. Am I missing anything?
It looks like, I'm just trying to think of anything else that would be there. I think we got most of the main, things that would probably cover, just a real simple, program. I think the only thing that I can think of that comes to my mind is maybe extra. I'm thinking of the equipment side of things, that paying, like, for example, when we do like our movies in the park or our drive-in movie series, and there's always little things that come up, that
Right.
you're thinking of as you plan a program, and then it's kind of like coming up to that time and you're thinking, oh, I should have put that in my budget to, kind of cover up. Maybe even sponsorships. That's also something I think of, like some events
Okay.
we do, like
Yeah.
a sponsorship type event, that
Offset.
sponsorships are going to do an event, and maybe helping some offset some of those costs. So that's just one thing else that I can think of.
That's a good idea, especially, Michael, when we're talking about trying to keep things affordable, sometimes you might find some local community. It's funny because when I played Little League, I was sponsored by the Deuce, which was the 2 a.m. bar down in Mill Valley where Huey Lewis used to play music. I don't think we can do that anymore, but anyways, that's not a bad idea. I appreciate that. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to show you a comparison, and it may come across as a sales pitch. I'm really not trying, but I really believe, after talking to a lot of people, do you guys remember Greg that was with the city of Napa for decades? He's retired. He's been helping me out up in Sparks and Reno in that area. We've been discussing it in details. But so what we did was we did a breakdown, kind of a comparison. So on the left, if you ran that same program as a contractor, right, it's still $100. If it was a 75-25 split at $25 times those 20, you'd get $500 gross. And then you slide down, you don't have the marketing, the equipment, the t-shirt, the insurance, your staff, which is the same for your support staff, or because really you don't have to, you're not onboarding staff, you don't have your coordinator, you don't have all those other expenses. So you're making maybe $350 on that program. It becomes a profit center for you guys, right? When you look at the other side, using that exact same breakdown, you're making $350 versus $150, right? So here'd be my question. If I look at that, what are the concerns? Because I'm going to go through some of the things, but I'm curious. Well, first of all, Anthony, does that seem pretty? Again, I know I'm supposedly selling this stuff, but this is what I'm kind of seeing. Does that seem pretty real? We said you make $150 doing this, but if you could outsource it and manage the same, just line item by line item, all those other expenses go away. So potentially it's a net gain for you guys of a couple $100. And obviously if it's a larger program, it's even more, right?
Yep.
Seem pretty good. Let me
Pretty
ask
accurate.
let me ask you this while I got you there. Do you feel like you're at a place where within that, then, like when I talked to one person, they said when we went through this, they're like, man, now that I think about it, I should just outsource everything, right? Well, I get that, but then what are some of the constraints? Jeannie, I would imagine that there's pressure for you to run certain programs, either because they've always been run, because it's traditional, or because they want certain things going? Is that seem like what you're dealing with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do contracts and camps, but I also have the Tiny Tots program, which is like a beloved
Yeah.
preschool that's not a preschool recreation program. So
Right.
yeah, but I couldn't, that would be very difficult to outsource.
Right. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Dominguez, you have any we call them, what are they, legends, or that have been around a while that are running a program that you're partnered with, and you guys have been running kind of like this, that they, like, as an example, it's funny to me, but the way that the financials are broken down and the way that many cities send out their proposals, by the way, we work with almost all of you, and almost all of you have a different proposal request form. So knock it off, right? Let's find one, right? I get a PDF, I get a JPEG, I get a fill, I get oh my gosh, right? So if we could, that's enough. Anthony, put it on the list. Let's come up with one proposal request that all CPRS uses, because it would sure be nice for the contractors. Plus, it make it, we know what you need: program name, date, time, minimum, maximum, start, all that. But I'll tell you what, man, sometimes it's like you guys think you gotta, it's a challenge. I'm not gonna lie. Absolutely.
Can
Absolutely.
you imagine all of our city attorneys getting together and all agreeing on the same thing? That's the tough part.
Yes. Well, again, the city proposal is one thing. Contracts, funny story. So I have 131 city agency contracts plus 3 others. And my attorney jokingly at our quarterly meeting says, I'm going to start charging you by the pound, right? There's a couple cities, which I won't name because I don't want to let people know, that it's great. It's like 2 pages. It's like, oh, godsend, right? And then there's others that are the largest, 61 pages. Oh my goodness, right? And you're like, holy. So I agree with you on the legal side, but it would be really interesting to see. I think the challenge is that the old traditional form was built for the yoga instructor, right? I'm a stay-at-home yoga instructor. I'm going to use your center when it's not being used during the day. So it's simple, this, and this. But when you work with somebody like us, and we're offering you 10 different sports year-round, different age groups and different agencies. So you might want to look into that. Just sorry, getting off my soapbox, but all right. So when you look at the financials, what I want to kind of do now is to kind of educate and go through the next step of the thought process here. And again, I've been told that I'm a salesperson by heart, but I'm really trying to educate and understand as well, because that's how I grow and get better going forward. So the next one is basically the downside of outsourcing. What I hear is that the reduced gross program revenue, right? Because if the program brings in $1,000 and you got to give $750 to us, you only get $250 on paper. Wait a second, you guys are grossing less revenue. But to Mickey's point, when you look at it and you balance it out realistically, what's more important, the gross or the net? For those that are new to the numbers, the gross is the top line, and the net is pretty much what you get to keep, because it doesn't matter how much you make, right? It matters how much you get to keep if you're looking at it as a profit center. Ideally, it would be great if you could take that, Dominguez, I mean, it would be great, because I know you run programs that are profitable. You could take that money and shift it over to subsidize your other programs and balance your budget, and you're in charge of it. Life would be pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it'd be pretty great, but
well, all right. Well, we'll see what we can do, whether it's through us or whoever. The other one is reduce control over the program. How many of you have found, and again, we're great to work with, blah, 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 but let's just say in general, how many of you have found when you hear that thought of outsourcing, that there's a concern over reduced control of the program? By a show of hand, does anybody kind of get that feel a little bit? Sometimes you hear it. Yeah. So one thing that we'll talk a little bit about is, believe it or not, we're going to use the same kids in the same community that live in your community, right? And by the way, one thing to remember is that when you have that, you've got one point of contact. Rachel, you're a perfect example. If anything doesn't work right, you know exactly who to call, right? And so you do have that. But I think perception becomes reality. So one thing that we got to look at when you're talking about outsourcing, whether it's to a big 4 business profit company or whatever it is how does the perception be seen in the public, right? Reduced hours for your current staff. Does anybody have so much staff and not enough work for them, or is it kind of the opposite for you guys, right? So this may be an older problem. Registration reporting, the downsides of that. Do you guys have challenges sometimes tracking and reporting in that with your systems or things are pretty good. I know one of the challenges that I've seen when you outsource is, okay, wait, you know, if they're taking it, then you need to get access to all of the information. And sometimes if you deal with the smaller contractor, that can be a problem where they're not giving you the full reports, the name, address, email, all the data and all that. That can be a challenge as well. There is an additional layer of communication because if they register, especially if you allow registration to go through the third party or the contractor, then you're not dealing with directly with that. And now a parent has a complaint. What do we do, right? So one of the things you want to make sure is that if you are going to use and you are going to outsource for a senior program or a camp or whatever it is, that you make sure you have great straight line communication. That's going to be very valuable. And then controlling the fees and the tuition, although I think in most cases it becomes a negotiation, right? I'm thinking with Michael, you and I have talked about it, and we say, okay, here's kind of the fee, and then we kind of go forward from there and kind of balance it out, right? I don't think things, we don't go into Dominguez and say, hey, we're going to charge $1,000 a week, and you're going, yeah, that's not going to work, right? So you got to find that balance point. Is there anything else that you guys see as it's a downsizing or a downside to outsourcing? Anybody else want to share anything? Any thoughts on it?
I do. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. One thing that we've run into here at the city of Santa Rosa is it's very frustrating for another organization to go through the steps that they need to go through with the city in order to be approved for that. And I'm not talking about just contracting out to a different instructor, but
Right.
creating the MOUs or the contracts in place and sharing the space and the insurance and the work. And sometimes people don't want to go that far because the cities ask for a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that. I did a proposal situation for the city of San Diego. They have 57 rec centers, and it took us 2.5 years to get approved. Right. So yeah, the hoops you have to jump through, and it changed 3 times in the middle of the process too. Right. So that's a challenge.
It takes 6 months to get an MOU approved that's already approved. So
yeah, boy. I applaud you guys for doing what you do, because I could see where that could be very frustrating to go forward. All right, well, let's go to some positive stuff, right? I'm more of the positive guy. Increased net revenue, right? Like we showed. The bottom line is that if you guys run the program, it seems that there can be net revenue. Reduced program management hours. So like right now, my guess for City of Santa Rosa, Greg, you got to be pretty stoked, right? Because you're not going to have to hire the staff to run the 30 sports camps this summer with us. We got to do that, right? You can assist with things, but you don't have to do as much. You're managing the managers instead of managing all the little pieces, right? A whole lot less phone calls and all that kind of stuff. No need to hire program specific staff, no startup for equipment. If you want to start a lacrosse program, you guys got to have a budget somewhere to go buy the lacrosse equipment. At this point, whoever you're outsourced to, it's their job to get the equipment, right? Depending on that. Increased advertising, marketing, and promotion. We talked a little bit about that. At the National Cav Athletics, I want to show you one thing with us, which I wasn't planning on doing, but since we got a minute, I'm going to show you real quick. If you go to our National Academy of Athletics page, one thing that we've done for you guys, I realize I'm not screen sharing, so I may want to do that, right? Here we go. If you go to our page and you look at the become a community partner, right under that, it's called CP Assets. If you click on that link, you're going to get logos, marketing images, videos, all kinds of stuff that's available. And it's all designed to support you as you're going through with the marketing. And what we're finding is that a lot of agencies, do you have a marketing, Steve, do you have a marketing person that's either full-time or that does all of your marketing for the city, or is it somebody that also does aquatics and just happens to do your social media, right?
No, we've got somebody 3/4 time that does our marketing. So social media, we still do a brochure. We paused the brochure, but we're getting back to that again for spring and summer.
Right.
But yeah, we do have somebody.
Good. That's great. Yeah, we're blessed. We have a chief marketing officer, and all she does, she came from working with Chase and then with the golf centers and all that. And that's all she does is she literally, in fact, she's on right now studying what are the trends and the SEO and the Facebook and how to maximize those so that everybody gets a true shot at this, and we could do another one, Anthony, talking about how to maximize and use linking and everything on social media. Cause I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm okay at it, but oh man, that's a whole nother layer to work with. You know what I mean? That would be a good one to work on as well. Okay, let's get back to the slide here. Equipment, increase advertising, reduce admin fees with registrations. That's if you decide to have some take registration. Some we work with, both of us take registration. Some we take registration. Some you guys do. The only thing I'll tell you is if you have a contractor take the registration, they're responsible for the admin fees. They're responsible for the credit card fees, anything associated. Your net is the true net. I'm not necessarily advocating for that. Depends on the agency, but it just give you a little thought process on that. I do think that you guys as cities, agencies, taking registration is important a lot of times because you do get a lot of more control that way. The experts continuity, because they can sometimes hire somebody that's going to sustainably work with them. And then, of course, diversity and following the trends in terms of going on. Is there anything else that you guys see that maybe is an outsourcing plus or upside that maybe you guys see, or what do you think? We hit them pretty good? All right.
I'll jump in, Aaron, really quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had one more once. I was thinking, I was trying to read through, make sure it wasn't on the list. A lot of times the communication with the families is really helpful from your team that we work with in Petaluma here. So like, for example, the area manager, Ben, will take on communication with families if we're switching locations, or if we're changing the times or pushing the days back, or etc. So that's really helpful. Again, it's part of that, I guess, kind of admin, the reduced admin and part that you kind of spoke about. But it's really helpful when we have so many people in all of our programs and we have limited staff that, you know, if he takes on communication with a group of parents, even just that one group, it's really helpful for us.
Right. Yeah, appreciate it. Ben's really good at that. You know, one of the things about that, you know, obviously the pre-camp email that has to be sent out, or pre-program email, just even those kind of things. So Mickey, you guys don't have to worry about that. You know, it's done. And what I would do if you do that is I would require them to include you guys on the email so you see the communication and you know what's going on. Because one of the things that we've added a layer for us, particularly like if a program cancels within 48 hours, for us, it's not just an email, but a text is sent to those parents as well. Because we want to know that they get it, because we all know stuff goes into spam or junk folders or whatever. And then there's the parents, so I never heard this. And then, the whole deal. Not that parents would ever, not be honest about it, but sometimes things shift as we go forward. All right. So Coach Wooden, who was my first job out of college, taught me it's amazing how much can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit. My goal of showing this to you guys today was to kind of broaden your thought process, thinking about that what our goal through as a contractor is basically increased participation, hopefully because we can allow you to focus on the things you need to focus on and allow the contractor like us or whoever to focus on what we do, give you a larger variety of services available, professional point of contact, meaning that there's just one, like you said, isn't it great? I mean, Ben's pretty good to work with. If you need something, the response is good there. Increased revenue opportunities and creative problem solving. So what I like to do, if you guys wouldn't mind, is just really quick go through, because I think it's important. And we'll go quickly through it as we can. So Greg, tell me one thing that either was a reinforcement or a new concept today that, like, it's a note you go, yep, whether good, bad, different, whatever. What's one thing? What's your takeaway?
Well, just going back to marketing, I definitely appreciate that you guys have all those logos available for that. It's going to help us kind of communicate that. It's kind of, at least for the sports department, I think it's kind of the first time we've offered something like this in a while. So
26 years ago, we used to run it, right, Mickey? Way back in the day. Steve, how about you? Give me one thing real quick. That's your takeaway.
Your stat on Facebook and parents being on that. I mean, I've always kind of known it, but the actual number is going to help me go back to our marketing people and say, hey, look, we do it pretty weekly. We need to pump that up a bit.
Yeah, 3 times a week, boost the post, tag other community partners and make it happen from there is important. Chelsea, what about you?
One thing I really thought was interesting was not just talking to the schools, but also PTA, talking to them probably to help bring that in for marketing wise.
Good stuff. Good. Dominguez.
Actually, what Rachel just touched on with the emails, it's really a huge thing for our community. We see that when other programs are run by other instructors, they don't send those emails out, and we get those, those parents' complaints and wondering where the email is coming from. So those emails are huge for communication and getting everybody on the same page.
Good stuff. Kevin?
I think for me, this is kind of just an overall arching theme is, really getting a feel for what is working and not working for everyone else. I mean, we always say don't reinvent the wheel. And I know that's not necessarily maybe applies to this particular situation, but it's always really seeing not just what's, not working, but also what's working, and just take those things from other folks. If you need to put a little spin on it, absolutely do that. You don't want to copy and paste completely, but at the same time, really see what's working well for people and launch from there.
Hey, when I worked for the Lakers and we were going through stuff in advanced scouting, we were stealing stuff from everybody else. That's what you do. You know what I mean? And then, like you said, put your spin, make it your own. The wonderful Mickey. It's so good seeing your face. It's been wow.
It is so awesome to see you again. I am totally a different bird. So what I got out of this is when you said manage the managers, not 30 temp staff.
Yeah. I'm in. I love it. Right. Exactly. Michael.
Yeah, my takeaway is just the quality of service a contractor could bring in. You don't have to worry about staff calling out, using your own staff time, finding the filler. It's just the consistency they provide, the quality of communication and the marketing, that helps save so much time, on your end.
Yep. Rachel.
I'll kind of go off of what Michael said, and then also Greg. I appreciate the marketing materials always, flyers and social media. It's really easy for us to promote NAA when we have, already all the photos and everything ready to go. And I do appreciate the partnership in general and the less staff time that it takes. I'll just keep noting on that. Our department is really small in Petaluma. We don't have a lot of full-time staff. We have a lot of programs that we run. So we rely on our contractors, to be there and support us and bring these awesome programs. And we really wouldn't be running probably any sports programs realistically if we didn't work with you guys. For our youth, we have a lot of, Kevin works with a lot of groups outsourcing to do field rentals, etc. But we don't really run any internal sports programs. So I've always appreciated the partnership with you guys over the last 3 years.
Good stuff. Jeannie?
Basically just what everyone else has already said, but doing a lot of contract classes and camps, it's reiterated that I need to go pursue outside more. I'm excited that Greg will be working with you and for NAOA, is that how
NA of A, that's right. Capital
okay.
Yeah, because got to make it right. Exactly.
That's right. But I don't do as many sports, so I'm just looking for other avenues. People, contractors haven't really been coming forward during COVID. I don't know if anyone else is facing the same situation. So I tried to expand by doing more internal, which I just probably doubled my workload. So definitely need to outsource more.
Good stuff. All right, Anthony, I'll let you wrap it up, my friend. What's your last, what's your takeaway?
So my takeaway for today was work smarter and not harder. So being able to contract out with other people, making it an easier experience for my staff and my team. So simply work smarter, not harder.
Love it. Appreciate it. You can snapshot that if you want. Like I said, I'll email Anthony the this as a PDF in case anybody wants it. Anthony's going to have a copy of the recording for those. I know I've got a bunch of emails of people that are last minute that couldn't join in, but it's all there. I appreciate the love and support and care that you guys put forward to the communities. Again, I swear, I just feel like you guys are underappreciated. And I've watched I know what we've gone through, but the thing is I get to say yes or no. I can't imagine that you guys are saying, okay, they said, and now we got it. And then I just can't imagine. So on behalf of the people that won't say it, oh, look at the cat, beautiful. Anyways, thank you. Keep up the good work. If we could ever be of any assistance, anything youth sports, coaching, whatever it is, you know where to find us. Appreciate you all very much. Stay safe and let's make it an amazing 2022. Let's do this. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for the opportunity, everybody. We'll see you soon.